Welcome to a special edition of Interior Sports Extra here on KTVF Channel 11. I've assembled an expert panel here to talk about all things interior sports. I'm Devin Fry. I'm the sports guy for KTVF Channel 11. I am joined with
Aaron Walling
and
Brad Joyal
and
Jordan Rodenberger.
And you two are with the Daily News Miner. Aaron, you are with News 13. So that's where you can watch or read all the great things that these people put out. So we are going to get things started today with the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And, you know, when you start talking about UAF, the conversation always starts and ends with hockey. And, you know, hockey season is definitely in full swing. We're getting closer to the end. We are currently sitting at about that 6th and 7th range in the WCHA, getting closer and closer to the playoffs. Aaron, how are you feeling about hockey season so far?
I think this team actually has a chance to make the postseason, but they really need to cut back on their penalty minutes. When you look at that team, a lot of times they shoot themselves in the foot. Like, they'll get a lead, and then they'll squander it by getting into the penalty box for multiple long stretches of times, especially in the third and second period.
You know, I think when you talk about getting into the playoffs and down the stretch, the key is going to be, you know, can they put together back-to-back wins and sweep one of these weekends? It seems like one night they have a great night, the next night they, you know, fall or lose. I think when they're going to make a push to get into the playoffs, it's going to come down to obviously points, and can they string together a couple wins back to back.
The Governor's Cup series can only carry you so far.
Yeah, exactly. And no, that is one good thing is we've already secured the Gov Cup this year. I'm super thrilled about that because I'm from here. We have that little brother beef with
Sometimes
Anchorage.
People would rather have that than the actual WCHA.
I've had people tell me that makes or breaks the season is whether or not they win the Gov Cup. Right. And I'm like, well, we make the playoffs, guys. I mean, Now we're going to go from one first-year head coach to another first-year head coach with UAF women's basketball, and it has been a pretty rough year. Any thoughts at all on what the women's basketball can do to build from here? Because it's obviously a rebuilding season.
This team has some of those pieces, but remember, the years before that, they had Kaylee Joel, Jordan Wilson, they had Autumn Childers, Victoria Melton. They had a strong core.
And they all graduated last year.
This is just a rebuilding year. Hopefully years to come, they'll start to see some of those other players like Emily Evans come to more into her own, but the season has been tough.
Yeah, they only have one senior, so there'll be plenty of players returning. Lexi, like you said, she's a certified sniper, makes all the threes for UAF. But what I would like to see is for them to get an identity. This team seemed to just kind of be assembled with players that they just kind of whoever came to them. But I would like to see is them to get an identity, figure out what's going to work best for them, get a system going, and so that even if they are outmatched talent-wise, they could still outwit the other team or use plays or use their length or defensive schemes to outplay the other team.
Certified sniper, I like that. They should put that next to her bio on the website. I think that'd be pretty sweet. Okay, and we are going to real quickly, before we get out of here for a commercial break, we're going to talk very quickly about men's basketball. And they're sitting at a spot that they haven't been in the conference championship tournament since 2015. They're sitting in that they're tied for 4th place with Seattle Pacific right now.
I've been very impressed because, I didn't, really know what to expect out of them. I think the key is getting over these top teams. If you look at their losses, it's to the Western Oregons, Western Washington. So it's a good sign that they're beating the teams that they should beat, but it's almost, all right, now how do we get over the hump?
And they have the best three-point percentage in the conference, so they kind of live and die by that, and that can get dangerous. So hopefully they peak at the right time towards the end of this season. We'd like to see them kind of get separated from that cluttered GNAC in that middle there so that they can avoid that Western Washington or Western Oregon in the first round, and they can hopefully get by with a win in the first round and then see what happens from there.
Right. There's a whole lot of ties for places in the GNAC.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah, it's a very competitive conference this year, and hopefully, UAF can end up getting in there, maybe even a couple rounds into the tournament. Who knows?
Never know.
All right. Well, we are going to wrap up and go to a quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more Interior Sports Extra. Welcome back to Interior Sports Extra. This is Devin Fry, joined at the desk by Aaron Walling and Brad Joyal from the Fairbanks Daily News Miner. And we have a special guest for this break. Jordan has tagged out, and we'll be joining Jaime Schwartzwald is going to be joining us here at the desk. He's our resident Ice Dogs expert because you are the play-by-play announcer for the Ice Dogs, correct?
Yeah, PA announcer at the
that's
game,
the word.
so I watch a lot of neutral zone hockey.
Just hang out in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, in case you haven't been able to figure out, we're going to be talking about the Ice Dogs for this segment. And first off, we just need to talk about how good of a year they're having, because especially compared to where they were a year ago. I remember my first story when I got on TV was how the Ice Dogs were in 5th place and needed to go on a big, streak to get in there. But no, this year's been great. They went on a 15-game winning streak, which is remarkable in any sport, much less hockey, because they play so often and it's such a tough sport. What have you guys been captivated by so far this season for the Ice Dogs? Aaron, I'll go ahead and start with you, my man.
I've actually been captivated by their defense while not having any penalties happen. They've been playing well on the ice. A lot of their top players are not ending up in the box, putting them in the issues. But also on top of it, it's their goal differential. That the team, it just seems like they know what they're doing with the puck. They move it around nicely. And I just get that feeling that even when they're down, let's say 2 goals, there's always a chance that they're going to come back and win it, because they've been showing it throughout this whole season. They can come back in those big games.
I think when you look at a winning streak like this, the biggest thing that comes into mind is consistency. You would think, once it gets to that 6 or 7 games in a row, a team would, take a night off, but they haven't been doing it, and it's been stretching over a couple of months. And I think the key to that is they have, 10 guys that have 20 points or more. When you get that solid production from so many guys, I think, results in wins, obviously.
Well, I think really, I've covered the Ice Dogs through all their Robertson Cup championships, and each team was a little different, and each team had skill and consistency and top-end plays. But what about it is with this team, I think, is the work ethic. All the way from top to bottom, they work hard. I mean, if you watch them in warm-ups, the guys are going hard in warm-ups, and that's really what kind of sets them apart for me is they're a good gelled, hard-working team, and they got consistent scoring, but they don't really have a top-end guy, right?
Right.
And everybody could probably play on the PK, and they're a real lunch pail team.
It seems like the NAHL is such a, every other year seems to be a rebuilding year because they're losing, kids to go to D1 schools. The Ice Dogs have been great at turning out Division I talent. What is about the Ice Dogs that they're just consistently towards the top? Like, they might have an off year where they're just making the playoffs, but that's still making the playoffs.
I think a little bit of it has to do with winning championships, so they're attracting some of the nation's top talent for this level. But one thing a lot of people don't realize about the Ice Dogs is the scouting network that they have and the actual scouts that are specifically scouting for the Ice Dogs. And they are all over the rinks, all over the country. They're bringing in players from the East Coast, California, of course, Minnesota and Michigan. So I think just really that strong network of scouts is really able to keep them just, and obviously Prof, he brings in the talent, and then Stu is a great coach. So it's that combination.
Right, General Manager Robert Prophet. Hopefully he doesn't run away to the NHL anytime soon, because I'm sure that job could be waiting for him there.
Go ahead and call him Robert to his face.
No. I did it on TV so everyone knows what I'm talking about. Prof, I love you, buddy. One reason that I feel like they attract a lot of players and fans is the atmosphere in the Big Dipper, because I've seen, games from around the NAHL, and they don't have fans like we do. No one's at capacity every game like we are.
When I talk to the opposing players from the different teams that come in, they all get jacked up when they come up here to play. So I coming from them, to hear them say it, you can tell that it's definitely big home ice advantage for the Ice Dogs.
It does get crazy sometimes, especially when you get, you have a fight and the 2 guys are in the box and they're on either side of you. Sometimes there's words spoken, sometimes not. There's some glass banging. It gets a little crazy down there, but the staff does a great job.
Gotcha. All right, well, we are out of time for this part. We will be right back with more KTVF Interior Sports Extra. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Interior Sports Extra. Now for this segment, we're going to be talking about more local sports coming up. And the big one that's going on right now is the Yukon Quest. Now, Brad, you were covering it for the News Miner this year. What were your preparations like getting ready for the Quest? Because it takes over your life. I learned that last year.
It definitely has. I think the big thing for me has just been trying to establish relationships with whoever I can. Because I know once we get out there it's going to just be pandemonium is at least what I'm expecting, and I wish everybody would put on name tags so it would make my life a little bit easier. But just trying to get familiar with the different mushers and the people that work for the Yukon Quest, because they're going to be my biggest resources throughout this thing.
One of the big things that I like about the Yukon Quest is they make it, so it's like Fairbanks' thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was last year, their big tagline was, "This is your race, Fairbanks." And we're, in Alaska in general, we're kind of losing, the stuff that makes us special. The Great Alaska Shootout's coming to an end down in Anchorage. We lost the Top of the World Classic a long time ago. But, we have the Yukon Quest, we have dog mushing, and that seems to be our big thing. Do you guys think that it helps, helps build that Alaskan identity, as having the Yukon Quest be as big of a part of us as it is?
Well, for someone that's moved around, and when I lived in England and I would talk to my professors over there, they would talk about dog mushing. That was something that they were always excited about, the Iditarod, the Yukon Quest. And now with the Yukon Quest and with all the controversy around the Iditarod, the Yukon Quest is starting to become more and more popular. You got a lot of people that are super excited about it.
My favorite thing is everyone has their favorite mushers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's the Hugh Neff fans, the Brent Sass fans, Matt Hall, who won the race last year.
There's always those consistent names you hear about that you mentioned earlier that are always winning. But someone I would like to see win this year was Ed Hopkins. Mm-hmm. He's finished in the top 5 the last 3 years, so it'd be nice to see him just get over that hump and just win it all for him this one time.
Get that one. Once you get the one, you're a Yukon Quest champion forever.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's way more than just the Yukon Quest going on this weekend. We have the Mid-Alaska Conference Hockey Championship, so that's coming. That came to an end. So we're going to have the state championship next. We look forward to seeing our interior representatives down there. And high school basketball, we had the turnaround date fairly recently. And high school basketball gets heated around here. I love going to the games, especially the crosstown rivalry games.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's creeping up on the level that when I played football up here, it was, that football was the big sport. Now it kind of feels like basketball is starting to creep up on that. What do you guys feel is, like, for high schoolers around here, what do you feel like is the end-all be-all sport, if there is one?
I agree that football is football. Friday Night Lights, they're always going to pack it out. But I've been impressed, coming up here from Massachusetts, where I used to live. The basketball, every single game is packed out. And and as you mentioned, you see the different players from the different schools coming out to scout. I think that's pretty cool that everybody's coming together. It's almost like these basketball games are a big night out for these high school kids, and I just think that's great to see.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask you you specifically a question, Jordan. You've kind of taken, you've just gotten into your role at the News Miner now. Is there anything, going around town covering all this new stuff, like all the high school stuff? Because you used to write for the university, right?
Right, Alaska Anchorage.
Right. So what's it like going down to, like, seeing all the high school level and stuff like that?
Well, it's great because you see how much support you get from out-of-town teams. All the parents, even fans and friends from Glen Allen or areas nearby, they all come to Fairbanks, or they'll travel just to come see that team play a regular season game. And so that's awesome to see, whether it is hockey or basketball. Football, they're definitely traveling down from Juneau, Kodiak. They'll come, parents, fans, they'll fly as far as they can to check out their kids play or to watch even just a good game, even if they don't have anyone involved in the game.
Okay, well, we have to take one more quick break. We will be right back to close out Interior Sports Extra. Thank you very much for joining us in this very special edition of Interior Sports Extra, and thank you guys for joining me, my expert panel, ladies and gentlemen. And we are always at different games around the interior, whether it's Ice Dogs, high school, UAF, no matter what it is, we're there giving you the scores. As a matter of fact, we usually post them on Twitter, and you can follow us at
J.A. Rodenberger.
Easy to spell. Brett?
FDNM Sports Guy.
At Frozen Sports Guy.
And I'm at Fry the Sports Guy. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a nice day.